Right guys, welcome back, and we're now on to episode 5 I believe we're on, and this guy isn't actually too far away from being finished, so I'm basically now going to start highlighting them up using all the different colours that we've done so far, but in a lighter tone. So the first one that we're going to do is we're going to use Ironbreaker Silver, and we're going to use that to highlight up each of the silver areas that we've already done so far. So same way that we did the reds, what we're going to do is literally just touch up each of the bolts here, but just with a small dot just on the top, just to highlight it up ever so slightly. And if you keep the highlight to one side, and it helps, you know, with the light direction. So I'm going to touch it all up from basically this side of each bolt will be highlighted up, just to show that the light is probably shining from that angle, sort of on the top and that side. And we'll do the same with the other bolts as well. So again, the ones on his helmet, and the ones on the top there as well. And I've just realised I've missed 2 bolts on the front there. And do the same with the ones on the chest plate. Probably come on from that side. And rebreather there as well. And using the same method as we did with the red, so only really painting half of the bolt. And each of the bolts on the legs as well, using the same method. Just touching up the top half of the bolts. It really helps show a little bit of light and direction for each of the bolts on there as well. Remembering to go around the back, touch these ones up as well. And the ones of course on the top. And it's worth noting as well, if you do want to add a little bit more highlight to the vents, you can just add a couple of streaks in, and you can see how streaky it is, just to reflect it, you know, how dirty it can get on them vents. And a couple of the panels in there. And I'm also going to just lightly dry brush. Drag my brush across just one surface there. I'm not going to do the whole thing because I just want the light to be reflected on the top edge where it's most raised, and the same with this side. So I'm literally just going to drag my brush along that side so that the underside underneath is still quite dirty and dark. And the vents here as well, I'm just going to pick up the vent itself just so that the light is kind of bouncing off there. and again just the vent itself here. And then the final piece for the silver is just the chains there, and again just lightly dragging your brush over the surface just to pick out those raised bits. And the same with the chain blade, but with the chain blade I will do most of the blade itself, as we did darken all of that down. And there we go, that is the first part of the highlight done, and I'm actually liking him a hell of a lot now. I think definitely the next time I use the Blood Angels, like I said in an earlier video, there's already battle report films which I haven't edited yet, which does feature the Blood Angels, but obviously this guy isn't painted up at the point. I'll probably finish this series before that battle report goes up, so stay tuned for that. But the next time I use the Blood Angels, this guy needs to come out and play, I think. What we're going to do now is highlight up the green purity seals and the eyes, and for this I use Moot Green. Moot Green is very, very intense, and I absolutely love the colour of it. So, if you give me 2 moments to grab a different brush. This is a little bit finer work than the silver. And again, this isn't a case of really dry brushing, it's a case of painting sort of the highlighted areas. And what we're going to do is just paint. You can see I've got quite a point on my brush, and just paint kind of half the ring of the seal itself, not the full surface of it, only about half. And same with the 2 up here. It's worth just going down the edge of it ever so slightly. Alright, give me just a moment. It's maybe a little bit too much. There we go. So the next part for the green that we're going to do, I'm just going to get a nice point here on the palette and wipe some paint off, is the eyes. Now, as I said before, I painted about half the eye in the darker green. I'm trying to get the right angle here because the lightning claw's putting a shadow across. I'm literally just going to do a small point at the front of his eye. In fact, I don't know how much you can see that on the camera. I can get it to focus. There, you can just about see I've done about half the eye at the front. I'm going to do the same with this eye as well. There we go. That helps sort of put the direction of where he's looking on there as well. I think this guy, he's looking kind of almost down this lightning claw here at his prey, or whoever he is going to be challenging. The next colour that we're going to do is Gainer's Gold. This is what I highlight my Balthazar Gold up with, and this one is going to be quite quick and short, just like the green. And again, I'm using quite a small brush here as well, because there's not very much gold at all. With the eagle insignia here, it's so small that I can actually pretty much just paint the highlight straight on, like that. and then with the lightning bolt in the middle, paint about half of it, the lightning again. So just go along the top edge. And then just leaving the bottom part there quite dark, whereas the top edge there is quite light, thanks to the highlight of Gainer's Gold. And again on this side as well, just highlighting that top. And there we go, that is it for the gold. The next one that we're going to do is we're going to start the highlight for the purity seals. I tend to do the purity seals in 3 layers. I tend to struggle a little bit with purity seals, I don't know why. I'll show you how I do them, but if anyone has any tips on how to paint purity seals better, or if you know any YouTube tutorials, please let me know, because I'm interested in obviously trying to develop my own painting skills as well. And for this, we're going back to Kislev Flesh. Because we toned it down with the sepia wash, we can actually afford to highlight it up with Kislev Flesh. So basically, paint down one side, and any raised bits just paint across there, so that the sepia is still sat in the crevices. And there we go. You can see there where I've just highlighted the raised areas, and then with the double purity seal up here. It's a bit awkward to get to actually, so you can still see. I'll do it this way. So down the edge of the purity seals. And then obviously across the ridge, it's up there as well. And there we go, he's starting to look quite nice, I feel. And then almost the last point that we're going to go for before we work on the lightning claws is I'm going to highlight the skulls up. Obviously I did darken them down with Null Oil, but I'm going to lighten them back up again with Screaming Skull. Like I said, I would normally go Shabti Bone and then highlight with Screaming Skull, but because I've got no Shabti Bone left, we're going to try it this way instead. So I'm going to paint the skulls up in a very similar way to what we originally did, in the form of painting most of the highlight of it up. But because it's already been painted in a bone colour and reasonably dark, you can get away with quite a light coat of just dragging the brush kind of across the top of the skull, so there is only picking up the majority of the skull rather than the whole thing, and still it looks quite dirty and clean, like almost as though the skull's been blasted clean of all the flesh and blood and gore, but it's still quite battle worn. And same with the skull on the chest. In fact, I'll just wipe a bit more paint off my brush there. Ooh. And there we go. What I'm also going to do with the Screaming Skull is very lightly dry brush those purity seals. picking up just the edge highlights again. Obviously, when I originally painted them, I painted about 3/4 of the purity seal with the Kissev flesh, but with this I'm actually only just picking up the very edges as well, kind of like what we did with the red, where we highlighted just the rims of the armor plates. It's a case of, you know, building up your layers, so you're doing 3/4, then half, then just the edges, and so on. And there we go. That's how we're going to leave him for this video, guys. So he's pretty highlighted up now. The next stage will basically be finishing off the lightning claws.